What's up guys, Casey here, and today we're going to be doing my top 5 video games of 2019. So let's get right into it. Alright, so at number 5 we have Pokemon Sword. Pokemon Sword for me, it's kind of a big step forward in the franchise for Pokemon as a whole in the gaming sphere, but it's also showcasing kind of how Game Freak knows what they want to do with the series, but the limitations of the hardware that Nintendo's putting out, we're never really going to achieve that open world, real third-person Grand Theft Auto-esque kind of world exploration of the world of Pokemon. However, Pokemon Sword does a great job at showing us what could be, and I do like what we got overall. First of all, these are some of the best designed Pokemon that I've seen in the franchise since, I want to say, Gen 3 or Gen 4. I love the concept of the wild area. The wild area itself, to me, it's fun being able to ride your bike or walk around and seeing these Pokemon from Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever they may be, pop up as real world, not sprites, but real world, actual like designed pixels that are the Pokemon themselves. I mean, it's really cool seeing a gigantic Onix and seeing him like fly, kind of like levitate. Big Pokemon from all sorts. It's awesome. You know, it gives you that kind of like, wow, what Pokemon will I find in here or here? Different temperatures and different landscapes throughout the wild area. It's fun. I think the design and the graphics of the game, they can be a hinder to the wild area. The wild area does feel very empty when it comes to what's in it besides the Pokemon themselves, but it's still a blast, and I love the concept of it for the Pokemon games going forward, and I give Pokemon Sword and Shield a lot of credit. The story, it's a cliche Pokemon story, but again, I love it. For me, Pokemon's always going to have a very, very special place in my heart every time they come out. Just being able to play through a new region especially, it's something that I'm gonna probably put on my list because Pokemon is Pokemon to me, and it's always a fun deal. But it is number 5 on the list, so as a result, it does show that out of the games that I see and deem as Game of the Year contenders, it's towards the end of it because it does have a lot of shortcomings, but overall it's still a really good Pokemon game to me, and a good game. At number 4 we have Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 to me is a game that really does show how far fighting games themselves have come. For me, I didn't think that fighting games, I want to say prior to the 8th generation of consoles, warranted a $60 price tag, because a lot of the gameplay of fighting games revolved around just the gameplay. Fighting 1v1 or 2v2s, you have a story mode that's pretty short, you can play with your friends, so maybe there's online, but the fighting itself can only carry a game so far if you're not a fighting fan, and I get fighting games are for fighting fans, but fighting games, what I'm trying to say here is fighting games have expanded their horizons into being more games for more than just fighting game fans. They can be for video game fans overall. I want to say the lore and the story of Mortal Kombat can get pretty complicated if you try to look past Mortal Kombat 9, but if you just start from Mortal Kombat 9, this game, exploring the lore, expanding the world, it goes in depth with certain characters, takes newfound territory with them, and it's great. I absolutely love it. I was not a big fan of MKX's story mode. Specifically how they paced it went by pretty fast. Having certain focuses on the Cage family, and a lot of characters didn't get a lot of spotlight. But I feel like Mortal Kombat 11 does a great job at evenly displaying certain characters throughout the game, and for me, I love that. So just playing the story of this game is fun in itself. And the fighting mechanics, I'm not really a fighting game guy, but the fighting mechanics at MK11 are so fun. It's fast paced, but still anybody can pick up and play and learn how to play. I feel that this game welcomes newcomers while also giving a lot of new stuff to people who have played Mortal Kombat before and want to see new stuff. The fatalities are awesome, of course. I do miss the use of X-ray moves, but what they've done with it instead, it's cool. Now, the customizability is not something that I really thought of Mortal Kombat as being great at, but oh my god. Every single armor piece you can think of on every single character is customizable, unlockable, and it keeps you coming back for more. This game gets really addictive with like its loot. You play these towers, you play online, you unlock not just customizability for the characters themselves, but banners and all this types of stuff that you just get addicted. And again, it's you feel like this game has so much going for it. It's like, it definitely warrants the price of $60. I also want to say that the crypt, for me, I hated the crypt in most of the Mortal Kombat games because it felt so dead. I didn't want to be in it. I hated traversing it. I understand it gives horror vibes, but it just wasn't for me. But Mortal Kombat 11's crypt, I love it. There's so many puzzles, so many different hidden corridors. It feels like a miniature little game in and of itself, and I do praise NetherRealm Studios again for just expanding upon everything that the Mortal Kombat 9 and 10 have been doing, and then just going tenfold with it. It's great. I absolutely love this game. It's number 4 on the list though, that I like a singular exploration, or I like open world exploration. But those are where, for me, games cater towards me. And so because this game had to compete with number 3, 2, and 1 is why it's number 4, because the genre itself is not my specialty, and as a result it's number 4, but still a great game. At number 3 we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is kind of like a love letter to, I want to say, every Star Wars fan that got screwed over by EA with Battlefront 1 and 2. Now, I haven't touched Battlefront 2 since apparently it's a great game now, but what I'm saying is EA pretty much gave everybody who was a Star Wars fan the middle finger, turned the Star Wars video games, the AAA ones at least, to money-making cash machines that didn't really have any heart in them. But Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, complete love letter. I absolutely love this game. Every minute I played of this game, it was amazing. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to absolutely love this game, and if you just like video games, you will like this game. The combat system is awesome to me. I like games where when you're fighting, you cannot mash buttons. Every movement, it can be fast-paced, but you have to think. You have to really strategically plan what button you're pressing, what combo you may be doing, and it creates an atmosphere where it's tense but fun. And the game can be hard towards the beginning. I feel like if you play on normal, the game will be hard in the first one third of the game, okay? But once you get towards the last two thirds of the game, it's a pretty fun ride in my opinion. I feel like you get a hang of the combat, your lightsaber's upgraded enough, you're in your skills, and you should be able to take on enemies, not with ease, but enough skill to where you don't feel like you're getting trampled over every time. But again, I love combat systems like that. I like Cal a lot as a character. In this day and age, when it comes to protagonists in video games, I feel like it's really easy for developers to create a main character where he's young, he has a lot of like, he's dumb, but he's very humorous, and if you know where I'm getting at with those types of protagonists. But when it comes to Cal, he's very serious, and his personality completely fits the events that follow Revenge of the Sith with Order 66. He's quiet, he's introverted, he's always worried until he's pretty much stressed. But the times when he does show happiness or caterance towards what's going on around him, and he's genuinely excited about things, is when he's outside of his own realm, and the world itself that he thought he could have explored when he was a youngling is actually being explored, and I really do like that. And the story itself, for me, the only problem I have with this story is how it ended pretty abruptly. But past that, the story was great. I feel like you get a good sense of every character that you're introduced to. It's pretty much a small cast of characters, but it's tight-knit and you love it, you know? The story is great and the gameplay is great, and the graphics for me, I feel like this game had a lot of texture pop-ins. There was a lot of cutscenes, a lot of times when the game, you could tell it was loading the world still, and textures were just not cooperating. And it does take you out quite a bit, but that's not why it's at number 3. The reason why it's at number 3 is because I feel like the other two games, when it comes to story, doubled down on it. And they kind of did new stuff. But number 3, as I said, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a great game. And the customizability when it comes to your lightsaber, it's like a dream for me, man. I love this game. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're gonna love it when it comes to customizing the hilt, the material pieces, everything on your lightsaber. Customizing a little bit of Cal, the ship, and I cannot forget to mention BD1. The droid in this game is my favorite droid above all else since R2-D2 was introduced all the way back in episode 4 in A New Hope, because I like C-3PO, but I pick R2 over him. And then BB-8 is charming, but BD1, my god, that is an awesome droid. So at number 2, we have a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and that is Days Gone. You know the controversy with Days Gone. It revolves around a lot of the reviews that GameSpot and IGN gave it, giving it mediocre scores when, if you do properly play this game all the way to its end, it's a great game, and it's extremely underrated. And I feel bad for Ben Studios because this is a great game. You can tell they put a lot of heart into it, and I feel like those early reviews kind of crucified it into being a game that a lot of gamers looked over. But I want to say, Ben Studios, you did a great job, an incredible job. This game, the story, and the voice acting specifically from Sam Witwer and portraying Deacon St. John as a main character in this game, the voice acting is at times, I want to say, overdone. Okay, but after a while you get used to it, and it does start to match the events of where the story is going. At first you're just like, well, dude, why are you talking like this? But then you start getting the personality of Deacon, and then you understand where things are going. But specifically the story starts off pretty generic and bland, kind of stale, but quickly, I want to say, it hooks into you, and it's got 3 things going for it. It's a love story, it's a horror game, and the world building it does, and why the events of this post-apocalyptic world and what these freakers are and zombie-like creatures, where they come from, all of it, it becomes very, very intriguing, and you get wrapped up into it. And before I knew it, I didn't want to do anything but play this game and just uncover the mystery while also trying to find Deacon's supposed dead wife. Some people have said that the characters are unlikable. I extremely disagree. At first, I didn't care for Deacon, and I love him. He's one of my favorite protagonists in recent memory. Boozer, same as well. And I don't want to give away other characters that you'll come across, but well-put story by the end of it. Once the story wraps up, I'm like, wow, very nicely done. The Hordes. The Hordes are the highlight of this game. And you don't really get into them until like the last 10 hours of the game, I want to say, which is unfortunate. I wish Ben Studios use the horde mechanic throughout the whole game, or at least by the halfway mark. But this game's about 35 to 40 hours, and you don't get the hordes until towards the end of that. It is unfortunate, but once you do, oh my god, if they make a sequel, I look so forward to taking on more hordes. Okay, the game creates an atmosphere where you should avoid hordes. Be scared shitless of them. At times, there could be 50 to 80 freakers at once running at you if they catch you. And as a result of that, it's very tense and you're scared. And then you'll get put into certain situations with missions where you should be running away from hordes or avoiding them or trying to work around them. But once you start taking them on and you have the resources and the weapons to fight them, it's exhilarating. Strategically planning your steps. Do you want to use the environment? Do you want to pick them off and come back and revisit the horde? Do you want to take them on all at once, go guns blazing? However you choose to do it, it's a feat in and of itself that this game can run with this many NPCs there, like running at you actively, all waiting to try to kill you. It's really, really fun, and I love that. And the exploration and the opening of the world and it taking place in Oregon, I love it. It's beautiful, and it opens up more and more and more, and the different terrain and territory and the bounty hunting and these different criminal bases that you take on. It all culminates in a world that I liked to play in. I would never live in it, but I love to play in it. It's a great game. The eerie music, like the theme of Days Gone that plays, and the voice acting is superb. It's above pretty much every game on this list except number 1, obviously, because it's the perfect type of game for me. It's open world exploration, and it does something new when it comes to the horror genre. It's not a scary game, but what it does with the freakers, it's pretty awesome, and it's a number 2 as a result. Alright, so at number 1 we have Death Stranding. Now this is actually the reverse cover. As you can see, if you look up the game, it's usually going to show Norman Reedus very close up to his face. But that's the reverse cover, and I like it a lot better. So what can I say about this game? It is my game of the year easily because of its story. The story, for me, I'm a big anime guy, and Kojima taking the approach of presentation when he tells the stories and how the stories unfold and the Japanese anime-like quirks that come along with the characters and how they interact with each other. If you're into that, it's awesome. I love Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead, so having him as a playable character in this game, I automatically already liked him. As characters unfold and you learn more about them, you grow with them. And again, I think a similar theme across all these games is usually when I get multiple characters that I like, I tend to like the game a lot, and this game is no exception. My main praise with the game here, though, lies in the world. This idea of where America goes after this apocalyptic event with these BTs, these demon-like creatures from an underworld that take over, and we fall apart as a nation. We have to rebuild the nation and interconnect it by using the chiral network and putting together bridges. The concept of the entire world I fell in love with in discovering it, and its mystery and its intrigue, and how this all came out of the mind of Kojima is incredible to me. It's in a completely different world. The small gripes I have with the world is just how it feels so unpopulated and there's no wildlife, so it makes it feel like it's definitely not lived in. And if it was more lived in, I would consider this one of my favorite games of all time. And I might after a while, as more time goes by. But overall, the game I see now, the story was incredible, and I absolutely love it, and there's not much to say more because the things that I can expand upon as to why I love it get into spoiler territory, but I highly recommend this game if you're into a great story. The gameplay, this is where a lot of people get into their criticisms of the game, and I understand it, but for me, it tries something new that I feel was very well executed on, and that is, this isn't a fighting game, it's not a third-person or first-person shooter, it's not anything you've really played before. It's kind of like a delivery game. You deliver packages. And the delivery mechanic of this game, for me, I love because it revolves around how many things you carry, how you organize it. And the menus can get pretty daunting at first, but once you learn how to navigate them and control them, you know, it gets a lot better. And you can pinpoint what packages you bring, what to prioritize, what not to prioritize, what equipment to bring with you that helps. And as you play the game more, you get more equipment that helps you traverse the world more easily. And before you know it, treading a long expedition across the map through walking becomes a lot easier because now you have a bike, or carts, or power robotic limbs that pretty much enhance your speed or carrying capacity and strength. Like, it's things like that where as the world goes on, as you play, it gets easier, it gets more rewarding, and I liked it a lot. Delivering these packages and objects to people for me was very satisfying. I wish that you would see more people in the game instead of holograms, but again, I feel like this game does so much new and how it presents itself, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen. And I feel like the moments when this game knows that you're making a long expedition, you're not really going to run into it, and it perfectly nails the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is amazing to me, but it nails the soundtrack and the scenery. Some of the most beautiful moments that I've had in gaming. And again, let's talk about the BTs, and it's kind of like the horror mechanic and the main antagonist of the game, and I feel like they're very well done. They can get pretty repetitive, and they start to lose their horror-like atmosphere towards the end of the game, but I like them a lot, and I hope we see newer takes on them if we do get a sequel or explore this world more thoroughly. The bond that you create with your BB, that baby right here that this game has so notoriously shown in weird, quirky ways, is one of my favorite relationships in the gaming medium as a whole. I absolutely love the BB, and by the end of this game, if you don't, then Probably not human, but it's number 1. And it is my game of the year for 2019. So thank you guys for watching, and without further ado, I will see you in the next video.